Hi everybody and welcome to another video. My name is Matt and this is What Matters to Matt, and that's right, on today's video we get to talk about the Mizuno Neo Vista after over 600 miles. But before we do go any further, I do want to let you know that Mizuno did send me this shoe for the purpose of review. That being said, my thoughts and my opinions are definitely my own. And if after watching this video you think you want to give the Mizuno Neo Vista a try, I will put a link to it in the description down below. I'm also going to put a link to vmzfit.com. Now, VMZFit is a website that me and my family have put together. There are a lot of affiliate links over on that website. They mean nothing to your purchase, but they go a long ways to helping this little channel that we are trying to grow. And lastly, if you're currently not subscribed and you think you're going to get value out of this video and other videos on my channel, please hit that subscribe button. If you are a long-time subscriber, from the bottom of my midsole, thank you so much. So first off, we will go over some of the specs of this shoe. Then I'm going to let you know exactly how I got to that 600 mile marker in this shoe. Then we're going to talk, of course, about the durability of the upper, the midsole, and the outsole. And ultimately, I'm going to let you know some of my likes and some of my dislikes. It's been a little bit of a love-hate relationship with this shoe. Mostly love, obviously, if I've got it to 600 plus miles, but there are a couple of tweaks that I'd love to see in version 2. Okay, so first let's take a quick look at the numbers. Now the price on the Neo Vista, where there is a version 2 that just came out, the regular price was $230, but you're able to find that now for about $160. That's in Canadian. If we're looking at the US, the regular price was $180, and now you can find that on sale for about $125. Stack height is 44.5 millimeters in the heel and 36.5 millimeters in the 4'4" and 8 millimeter drop. The weight is 9.4 ounces or 266 grams in a US men's size 9. The upper is a knit booty style upper. The midsole is Mizuno's Energy Next foam, which surprisingly in this shoe is an EVA based midsole foam. The outsole is Mizuno's X10 carbon rubber. So how did we actually reach that 600 plus mile marker? Well, first off, I did take this on a number of different surfaces, whether that be pavement, cement, crushed rock, dirt, ice, snow, wet conditions, dry conditions, practically everything you can think of. The only area that I didn't actually take this on was the track. That was for a couple of different reasons that we'll probably get into a little bit later in the video. And I also took the shoe on practically any run imaginable, whether that be a recovery run, easy run, steady run, long run, threshold, interval session. I took it on practically anything, but I will say my number one choice in terms of the run that I absolutely love to do in this shoe was those long-ish run progression runs where I started off at a recovery pace and worked my way all the way up to about half marathon pace. Now when it comes to durability and we take a look at that upper, there were two big concerns that I had with the shoe. One was where it is a knit upper, I was worried that over time you were going to see some fraying, some snags, something was going to show up there where it was just going to get a few holes in the shoe, and I didn't see that whatsoever. It's held up really well. And the other thing is with that knit upper and with that booty construction, I was worried that after a while it would get a little bit stretched out and it would become extra baggy. That didn't happen to me at all. Lockdown remained really good in this shoe, and I didn't have a whole lot of a loose material. Now that being said, I will say that up front here, and this happens with a lot of shoes for me, but I did have some extra material when I cinched that down, but that was great from day one. That's just how I like to run in my shoes. I cinch them down quite tight. I do have a long and slightly narrow foot, so in a lot of shoes I do get that baggy material, but it didn't get sloppy over time, which was a really big concern of mine when I first got this shoe, that if I was going to run it for a lot of miles, it would get a little bit sloppy, a little bit baggy. That just didn't happen. Now when it comes to the midsole and the durability, after about 300 miles, that was the mark where you kind of started to lose some of the pop in the shoe. But that wasn't a huge deal for me because, like I mentioned earlier, this shoe is best at those progressions runs, those steady runs, those ones where I'm actually picking up the pace, but I'm not running overly fast. And one of the reasons why it works so well in that is just how smooth it is to run in this shoe. And even though it was kind of flattening out a little bit after 300 miles, it still had all sorts of cushion, it still had some responsiveness, and because it was so smooth, it still worked really well for those steady runs and those long runs. I never felt at any time that I actually got buried in this foam because it started to loosen up a little bit too much, and I never felt like the shoe really got bogged down or too flat. There was still enough foam there that was still able to carry me forward, and with just the way the geometry of the shoe is with that smooth speed assist and that fiberglass infused plate, I still got really good roll through in this shoe. So even though it did lose some of that bounce and responsiveness after about the 300-mile mark, it still worked really well for most of the runs that I was taking it on anyway. So midsole lost a bit of pop about halfway through the miles that I have in this shoe, but still held up really well for the types of runs that I was doing. So the outsole is surprisingly one of those spots where I saw the most wear and tear out of any part of the shoe. Not surprising in the sense that a lot of people aren't going to get a lot of wear on a running shoe that they're going to take so many miles in. But for me, I typically don't wear out the outsole first, and that was sort of the first thing to go. That was the part of the shoe, and you can see it back here. And some people are going to say I'm a little bit nitpicky, but we had worn all the way down the midsole back here where I'm actually landing on the foot, and my toe off right up here we'd also worn through the rubber completely. Now, not enough where this shoe you can't run it anymore. There still has lots of life in that outsole. It just wore out a little bit quicker than I thought it was going to. It got a little bit slick up here towards the toe box. And the reason why that surprised me was Mizuno was pretty well known for having really durable rubber on their outsoles, and it wore out a little bit quicker than some of the other shoes that I have taken around the 600-mile mark too in the past. So that surprised me a little bit. But overall, durability has been pretty good, and you could still get some more miles on this shoe. It's just really starting to chew away at the midsole in a couple of different key areas when I'm out there on the run. So now we get to talk about a few of the likes that I have in this shoe, and the first big one that I want to mention is the actual comfort. The combination of that upper and that midsole is just really, really comfortable. It's surprising when you have a shoe that is fairly light, that has all that stack height, and really doesn't have a whole lot of padding, but the way they constructed this knit upper, along with just how soft that midsole foam is, makes this shoe incredibly, incredibly comfortable. Now that's going to have a problem when we get to some of my dislikes, and we'll talk about that in a second, but my number one like in this shoe is definitely the comfort factor. And the number two big like is probably something that you wouldn't be surprised by if you read lots of reviews or watch lots of other reviews on this shoe, is just how smooth it is to run in this. And I think that's why I like those progression runs so well. It just feels so smooth running through all those gears. Now, and you do get up to some of the faster paces, anything beyond, I think I mentioned half marathon earlier, anything beyond that, when you get to 5K, 10K paces, it doesn't feel like it's got quite enough pop to do that, even when it was a fresh foam. It definitely has a sweet spot for me at that half marathon pace at best, but it's just so smooth running through the gears, and anything from a recovery run all the way up to that half marathon pace just really, really rolled through really, really well. And my third big like, to be honest with you, is actually the price. Now I get it, shoes are getting really, really expensive, and I get it. When this shoe was first put out there, $180 in the US, $220 Canadian, that is a lot of money. But now you're able to find this shoe, because the second version is now out, for quite a bit cheaper, whether you're in Canada or the US. No doubt in the UK, I didn't look up the prices, but you're able to find this for a whole lot cheaper. And I think even at regular price, just given how many miles happy miles I was able to get out of this shoe, the per mile cost of this was actually really, really good. So price, surprisingly, is my third big like in the Neo Vista. But there are a couple of things in this shoe, if I was being a little bit nitpicky, that were not all that great. And the first one is actually that you're not able to do a runner's knot in this shoe. I put a runner's knot in practically every shoe that I own. Now, I say that's a dislike for me. It's because that's just how I like to lace up my shoes. This shoe, I had no issue with lockdown whatsoever, but so it certainly wasn't something I needed a runner's knot. It's just the way I like to lace up my shoes. So my number one dislike, perhaps it's not even fair, but it's that I can't actually do a proper runner's knot in the Neo Vista. Now, the second dislike that I have for the Neo Vista is the stability. It's not an overly stable shoe. Now, it feels really good. If you're a neutral runner, you're not going to have an issue with this. I think even if you've got slight pronation issues, you can probably get away with this shoe, because it does roll through really well with that smooth speed assist, but you're not going to want to turn any big corners in this shoe. I think that's one of the reasons why I just never wanted to take this on a track ever. I don't think it would work well for me there. And also, if I was running on trails or roads that had any sort of uneven surfaces, or that camber that we get on the side of some of the roads here, it just didn't feel all that stable. So number two for me was stability. I get with all that stack height, it's hard to avoid that when you've got so much soft squishy foam, and I get that they did try to help that out with this fiberglass plate and have bottom of the shoe or width of the shoe that actually was a decent width, but still stability wasn't great in the Neo Vista. If there's something they could do to correct that in number 2, which I think they may have done, hopefully I get to try that on pretty soon, but stability, number 2, dislike if I'm being nitpicky. Now my number 3 dislike, kind of like the first 2, feels like I'm being a little bit nitpicky, but I was trying to find a few things that I didn't really like about a shoe that I put so many miles in. But I would say that my number 3 dislike is just how non-aggressive this feels. I think you got something special here with this foam and this plate combination, but just how comfortable it is. I get that that was one of my likes, but how comfortable this upper is and how comfortable everything is and how smooth this is, it doesn't feel like an aggressive shoe at all. So when I say you can't really take it past that half marathon paces, it goes there, and surprisingly enough, it goes there quite easily. It just doesn't feel like a shoe that wants to go there. That might not be the intended purpose, but if I wanted a shoe that could do it all, having a little bit more of a snug fit, having a shoe that just felt a little bit more dialed in somehow, and Mizuno, I don't know how you do that, might make this the ultimate shoe for me. It's pretty close, but that might be one of the things that I'd like to see in the second version of the Neo Vista. So nitpick number 3 is maybe not aggressive enough. So one of the things that always makes sense when you're doing a shoe review is just let you know whether I would buy the shoe again. Absolutely, I would buy the shoe again. Of course, I think it's obvious because I've put so many miles in this shoe that it worked really, really well for me. And I'm hoping to get the number 2 in here fairly soon to give you guys my initial impressions on that shoe and compare that to this one and compare that to other super trainers that are out on the market. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I loved making it for you, and I loved getting the chance to put so many miles into the Neo Vista. It is an absolute banger of a shoe for me. My name is Matt. This has been What Matters to Matt, and ultimately what matters to me most is my family. I'll see you guys in the next video.